ABA 630 acquisition deck 3, 41 cards. Listener discriminations are called blank blank. Receptive language. Verbal behavior incorporates language topics including blank, composition, and understanding. Grammar. Someone asks Nia for a pen and she gives a pen. Listener discrimination. There are two kinds of multiple control of verbal behavior: blank multiple control and convergent multiple control. Divergent. Copying a text is a blank verbal operand. Elementary. Point-to-point correspondence occurs between a blank and a response. Stimulus. In a verbal episode, a blank emits a verbal response. Speaker. Nia's echoic hand sign for water physically resembles the therapist's hand sign for water. The signs have blank, blank. Formal similarity. Nia says water and the therapist says water. The response has blank correspondence. Point to point. Verbal behavior where a motor response is under the control of a visual verbal SD with formal similarity. Motor imitation. Verbal behavior includes vocal verbal behavior and blank verbal behavior. Non-vocal. The therapist signs milk and Nia signs milk. Motor imitation, sign language. Textuals and echoics are different because the response product of a textual is not blank to its controlling stimulus. Similar. Private events effects are only experienced by blank person. 1. Nia is pointing to a cookie. Nia is the speaker and the therapist is the blank. Listener. Covert events typically accessible only to the person experiencing them. Private events. A verbal SD that evokes a corresponding nonverbal response due to a history of generalized consequences. Listener discrimination. Motor imitation, sign language, has a history of blank reinforcement. Generalized. Formal similarity requires the response to blank, blank, the stimulus. Physically resemble. Nia sees the word water and writes water. Copying a text. Reading without any implications that the reader understands what is being read. Textual. Nia sees the word water and says water. Textual. A speaker emits a verbal response and a listener is an audience and reinforces the speaker's behavior. Verbal episode. Organism that provides reinforcement for verbal behavior. Listener. Behavior whose reinforcement is mediated by a listener. Verbal behavior. A verbal episode requires a speaker and a blank. Listener. Private events can be blank variables in verbal behavior. Casual. Listener discrimination is a verbal blank that evokes a corresponding nonverbal response. SD. When the controlling antecedent stimulus and the response share the same sense mode and physically resemble each other. Formal similarity. A listener must learn how to blank the speaker's verbal behavior. Reinforce. Skinner defined verbal behavior by the function of the blank rather than by its form. Behavior. A textual has point-to-point correspondence, but not blank blank. Formal similarity. Nia thinks about her car ride to school. Private event. Formal similarity requires the same blank mode. Sense. A verbal operant evoked by a non-vocal verbal discriminative stimulus that has point-to-point correspondence and formal similarity. Copying a text. Motor imitation, sign language, is blank verbal behavior. to click. A listener may also serve as a blank that evokes verbal behavior. Audience. Point-to-point correspondence occurs when the blank, middle, and end of a stimulus matches a response. Beginning. There are two kinds of multiple control of verbal behavior: blank multiple control and divergent multiple control. Convergent. The beginning, middle, and end of the verbal stimulus matches the response. Point-to-point correspondence. The verbal operant copying a text must have blank, blank, and formal similarity with the controlling response. Point-to-point correspondence.